guys! So today I'm going to be doing my July wrap-up video, and I just want to go ahead and apologize because I did not film any book reviews this month, and there were so many books on my July TBR that people were interested in hearing reviews on. But I do want to say that I'm going to make sure to make this wrap-up video very detailed and kind of do like a review mashup slash wrap-up video, which is kind of what I always try to do in my wrap-up videos, but even more so in this one. Having said that, I unfortunately did not get to all of the books on my July TBR, but I am planning to bring those two books over to August because it goes pretty well with my August theme. The first three books that I read this month, I actually read the first one mostly in June, but I ended up finishing it technically on July 1st, even though I included it in my wrap-up last month. That was the Summer Trilogy by Jenny Han. I read The Summer I Turned Pretty, It's Not Summer Without You, and We'll Always Have Summer. This trilogy was something that I was expecting to be kind of just light and fluffy, and not like I was necessarily expecting it not to be worthwhile, because obviously every book that I pick up I've got an interest in it for one reason or another, but I wasn't expecting it to get as deep as it did. And honestly, each book it just got deeper and the characters got more interesting and the plot thickened. The first book introduced you to Belly, who is a young girl. She spends her summers at her mother's friend's beach house. Her mother's friend has two sons, Conrad and Jeremiah, and Belly has always been in love with Conrad. I really liked how the first book went through past and present summer. It allowed you to understand why Belly was so in love with Conrad, and it wasn't just like, he's so cute, that's why I love him. It wasn't shallow like that. It had meaning, and I really liked that, and I just loved how the story developed. I think I gave them 4.5 stars out of 5. It's more than just a fluffy summer read. It's got heartbreak, it's got family dynamics. It's not just about Belly, it shows you about the other characters and how they grow and how they adapt after all these obstacles have been thrown at them. And you know, there is the whole love triangle thing, but I felt like it was done really well. It wasn't annoying, because love triangles can get hella annoying, but this one, it wasn't bad, and I felt and loved all of the characters. So while that did kind of make it harder at times, it made it more interesting. The next book that I picked up in July is Young God by Catherine Faw Morris. This is a book, it is an adult book that I picked up, and I actually hadn't heard anyone talk about it on BookTube, and I hadn't read any reviews. I just went into it fairly blind. Young God follows a teenage girl named Nikki. Very early on in the story, her mother dies, pretty tragically, and she's left with her mother's boyfriend who just takes full advantage of the situation. It's very, very toxic. It's very disturbing. Soon after though, Nikki leaves and goes off to find her father, who is like one of the top drug lords, and he's very well known. He's very feared. So this book, you know, already you get the sense that, it's gritty. The material is pretty dark. Those are two things that always draw me into a book. I love reading dark books. I love reading gritty books. I like raw and riveting. I want to read something that's going to just influence me in whatever way, and if it can disturb me, it's even better. While this book was disturbing, I felt like it was pointless, because the character of Nikki, you think that, yeah, I'm gonna feel for this 13-year-old girl who's going through all of this stuff, but she kind of brings it upon herself, all of these situations. It was really disturbing in that sense, and also just really disturbing because I didn't feel any empathy for her. I didn't feel any remorse. I kind of just felt disgusted by her and by all of the other characters. There was never really any plot. It was just this one shocking thing after another, and eventually it just got to the point like, okay, I feel like this is just for shock value. I feel like there's no substance to this. The writing was confusing. Sometimes it was sort of like a first person, third person perspective, and it kind of went back and forth. I don't know if it was kind of like an artistic decision on Catherine Faw Morris's end, but I just didn't feel like it was well executed at all. I think I gave it 2 stars, 1.2 stars out of 5. Definitely my biggest disappointment of the month, because I was so excited about that book. And if you guys have read it, please let me know how you feel about it, because maybe I'm missing something. The next book that I picked up in July was The Merciless by Daniel Vega. I actually buddy read this with Missy over at Binge Reader. The Merciless follows a young girl named Sophia, and Sophia is kind of an army brat of sorts. Her mother, I believe, is a nurse or a doctor. Sophia has had to move with her mother and her sick grandmother her entire life. She's never anywhere long enough to make friends. So when she moves to, I believe it's Mississippi or somewhere in the South, and this group of girls quickly befriends her, she wants to keep them. She wants to finally form friendships with people and closeness, and she's just really desperate for that. So much in fact that she kind of tends to overlook the fact, or not overlook because she's aware of it, but she forgives the fact that these girls are not really sane. They're not really a good influence on her despite claiming to be Christians. And when they make it obvious that they want to exorcise one of their classmates, red flags are waving, and she's thinking, okay, this is crazy stuff. It's pretty fast paced, and I really enjoyed Daniel Vega's writing. I thought that it was so on point. Like I said before, I'm such a lover of horror, and I'm a lover of adult horror. I am mindful of the fact that it is YA and it has to be tamer, but I guess I was just a little disappointed, hoping it would be a little more creepy, just because of everything that I had heard. But I do need to be mindful of the fact that other people's version of scary horror is not going to be close to mine, because I'm crazy. I love horror movies and I love scary stuff so much that I've got a really high threshold for it. So I was somewhat disappointed with the fact that it wasn't as scary as I wanted it to be. And I do think that it was still really good. I didn't see a few of the turns, the twists and turns that came. They took me by surprise, so I enjoyed that. I wasn't as thrilled with the ending. It kind of left you like, huh? But I have heard that it is being turned into a sequel, so I may be able to forgive the ending. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, but I've heard that. So if you guys know for sure, let me know. Overall, I gave the book 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I would recommend it. The next book that I picked up was actually a reread for me, and it was The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Brochers. This was actually the first book that I picked up for the booktubeathon, and I flew through it in a day. I really just wanted to reread the series. It's been one of my most beloved series, and I just really liked going back into the world. It follows a group of 4 friends who are leaving each other for the first summer of their lives, and they stumble upon a pair of pants that magically seems to fit all of them despite their different body types. They each have about a week with the pants, and then they send it along to the next person throughout the summer. There's just so much heart and so much love and so much just wonderful amazingness in this book. It's magical, and I love this series so much, and I loved rereading it, and I do want to reread the other ones. If you have not read The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, I would highly recommend it. I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars out of 5. Loved it. The next book that I picked up in July was Landline by Rainbow Rowell. Landline follows a woman named Georgie, and Georgie writes for a very, very popular television series. But she and her partner on this series, they are given the opportunity to write the television series that they've always dreamed of. Unfortunately, they are given this opportunity on Christmas break, which is when Georgie is supposed to spend time with her husband, Neil's side of the family. Georgie decides to stay home, and Neil decides to go off and visit his family, and it obviously creates this tension. So while Georgie is left at home over Christmas break, she visits her mother's house, and while she is staying there, she stumbles across an old telephone in her childhood bedroom, and she quickly realizes that this telephone can let her have conversations with Neil that take place like 15 years ago before they were married. She gets to relive moments, and she gets to do things that she regrets over again, and that was just, it was so fantastical, and it was so interesting. Overall, I was not disappointed by this book. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy it. But I did feel like the magic telephone element of it wasn't as well explained as it could have been, and I also felt like everything was kind of wrapped up and tidied up at the end, and it was kind of like, oh, okay, everything's gonna be okay. It's like at the end of a 30-minute sitcom, and they've got issues throughout the whole show, but then by the end, everything's okay. At the same time, I might just be used to reading so many series right now that I'm having trouble appreciating standalone endings. I don't know. I still really did enjoy it, and I love Rainbow Rowell's writing, and I thought the characters were so interesting. So yeah, 3.5 out of 5 stars, still overall a really good read. The next 2 books that I read were also during the booktubeathon, and they were Less Than Zero and Imperial Bedrooms, both by Bret Easton Ellis. Less Than Zero, if you don't know, follows a cast of characters. They're all teenagers who live in 1980s Los Angeles, and they're all leading lives that are basically your worst nightmare. They're addicted to drugs, they're addicted to sex, they're addicted to this lifestyle that isn't going to lead anywhere good. Reading Lesson Zero again wasn't as groundbreaking as it was for me the first time, and I feel like that's because with Bret Easton Ellis, his stuff is very gritty, and for the first time that I read it, it was something so out there and so just like pushing the envelope. So to read it again after several years and reading other things that are similar or darker, it wasn't as profound to me, but I still thought it was a really good read. I still really, I don't want to say enjoy it because it's such a tragic story, but it still moved me. And reading the sequel was really interesting because just to see these characters make it to adulthood was incredible, and it was really shocking. There wasn't any character growth, but it's not like I was expecting that. The story was entertaining. I mean, it was intriguing, and I was interested to see where each of these characters are and the many mishaps that they continue to have in their lives. It is sad, but there's something appealing to reading about it. I think I gave them both 3.54 stars out of 5. I really liked rereading this and then reading the sequel. It was just really interesting for me. The next book that I picked up was The Sign of the Ford by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This is another one that I read during the booktubeathon, and it is the second book in the Sherlock Holmes series. If you guys have been with my channel for a while, you know that I started the series in January, and I was just so interested to continue on with the stories of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson. I really liked this story even more than A Study in Scarlet. It was nice to see them just becoming friends. You could tell that they were a lot closer than they were obviously from in the first story, because they had just moved in together and just started working together. And by this story, they're very comfortable with each other, and the hilarity just ensues and the cases get more interesting. So I just really enjoyed this one. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because I did talk about it in my booktubeathon wrap up, but I will say I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend it. And the final 2 books that I read in July were actually graphic novels. They were Saga Volume 2 and Saga Volume 3, both by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. Saga is an epic, amazing graphic novel series that is very hyped on BookTube right now. It's very popular. There have been so many books on BookTube that the hype has escaped me, and I've felt like I've completely missed what is so great about them. This series is not one of them. This series deserves all the hype. Can't say enough about it, and I feel like everyone talks about how much they love this series, so I don't want to beat it to death, but I will just say that it's about a couple. They're both from different species that have been fighting for years in this intergalactic universe, and they come together and fall in love and have a baby, and then they are on the run from all of these people who want to kill them. For me, it is 100% the characters. They are incredible. I love Alana. She is by far my favorite. Yeah, just read the series and you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll know what everyone is talking about. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. In the comments below, I would love for you guys to let me know which of these books you have read, how you felt about them. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Also, what did you guys read in July? I would love to hear what you read. If you participated in the booktubeathon, how did you do? No matter what it has to do with, I would love to just get conversing with you guys. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one.